We are. Battle number 3. Whoops. Throw those around, stand on the wire, do all sorts of stuff. But yeah, battle number 3, Sheffield Slaughter. Very old tournament, run by very old men. Having a great time. Everybody's drinking loads of the amber stuff. Some of it's a bit stronger than some of the other stuff, but it's all great. Yeah, and so we get into the meatier end of the tournament, I reckon. We're starting to see some really competitive matchups now as all the good stuff is rising to the top and all the lesser gooder stuff is not rising to the top. It's having a great time over there. They're having a great time. I mean, that last battle where we saw
as well.
that's great. So it's great. Game 3, we are covering Mark Wildman.
We are.
And he is playing against Mikey Thomas. I was grasping into my brain trying to find his name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mikey Thomas, and he is playing Legion of Blood. Now, Mark Wildman is quite good friends with Dan Bradshaw.
Yeah. Once or twice in the past.
I think they have a collective brain, so his list is exactly the same as Dan's. Some would say actually it is Mark's list, with which Dan used to win the Masters.
Is that the East Nottingham Masters?
Yes, yeah. I think the local Dunkirk Masters. That area of Nottingham is called the Dunkirk. In fact, that bridge that goes, the dual carriageway that goes past Games Workshop is the Dunkirk flyover. So you could say it's the Dunkirk flyover Masters.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a good list then.
Yeah, especially if you're in the Dunkirk flyover area.
That's unbeatable there. The Under will have that bridge to hide under and
there we go.
Come out and sort that out.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, that Masters list was unit of 40 Ungor Raiders and a unit of 10, and then 30 Zangor dudes with something.
Just the regular guys on foot with the weapons.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then 2 units of 9 Enlightened on discs.
Yep.
Super fast, super choppy. And then the characters are 2 Great Brays and a Zangor Shaman.
Okay.
And he's also got the Geminas of Ulgush, which are probably the best of the endless spells.
I think they are. They're certainly in that top bracket, aren't they? You see them in a lot of lists, and that ubiquity of being able to do the mortal wounds and debuff a unit in 1 of 2 ways or 2 units is super strong.
Yeah. It's just really good. So especially for 40 points, you can't go wrong. So yeah. So he's playing against Mikey T. Legion of Blood.
I love Legion of Blood. I think it's cool. You see a lot of Sacrament and you see a lot of Grand Host. Legion of Nagash, but Legion of Blood.
Do you ever see Legion of the Night? Have you ever seen that? That's Manfred's
it is in the night, so you can't see it. It's hidden away.
Enough,
I'd like to see it. I think Manfred's cool. He has some synergy. But so what are we looking at in this list? So
he's got a Vampire Lord on a Zombie Dragon as his general. No, not as the general. The general is just a winged vampire.
So a Vampire Lord with wings. He's flying.
That's right. And then another Vampire Lord with wings.
Yeah.
It's just his mate helping out.
Yeah.
And then there are 2 Terrorgeists. Just plain old Terrorgeist dudes. No.
And they're not
dudes
quite as
on
good
top.
as the Flesh Eater Corpse ones.
No, they're just Legion of Blood ones.
Yeah.
And then 10 Blood Knights, 3 units of 5 Dire Wolves.
So that's filling out his battle line nicely and cheaply, letting him get those bigger things in there.
Yeah, and very fast as well. And they're great for objective play, aren't they, really? So,
they really are.
Yeah.
Especially as they're summonable.
Yeah, I think that's the bulk of his army. So, yeah. So there we go. Be interesting to see. I don't know what you guys think. Who's the stronger army of the 2? Obviously, the Beastman, the Beast Chaos army, has got that.
It's got that pedigree, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's a great word to use, pedigree.
Oh, thanks.
He probably feeds a pedigree. Right, but before we go into that battle and see what else is happening, we're going to cross over to the awesome Mr. Chuckleberry. He's going to give us a roundup of what the hell's going on or what's about to happen. So over to you, mate.
Thanks, mate. I mean, if awesome, is that all we get now? Is that That's it. That's the only intro we get. The awesome. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine. So so we're getting into the kind of the meat of it now. This third game today is the final kind of sorting the men from the boys. You know, this is the you've got some gladiators in the arena. So I'm gonna be going through and picking out some of the some of the meta shifting armies and kind of focusing on those a little bit more and picking out the stories. So what I'm going to bring you is we're going to carry on with the Flesh Eater Courts and really see. There's no getting away from them. Flesh Eater Courts are all over the place. Top 10, 15 tables. I think basically everybody who's won. I think there's 12 tables, maybe less than that everybody has won all of the games so far. So there's some really tough matches. Tomorrow's we get the really, really hard ones because everybody, all the kind of top 5, 10 tables, they've all won all of their games. That's when it gets really juicy. But to my right, we've got Ben Johnson versus Alex Bruce. Alex has got his mixed order, and they are a force with which to be reckoned. But he's going up against Ben Johnson with his Flesh Eater Courts. So Ben's waving at the camera, but it's side on. So I don't know why he's doing that. We've also got so we were talking earlier about Escalation and Flesh Eater Courts matchup. We've got another one now. I think we're probably going to have them for the rest of the weekend, really, because they are the top two, top tier armies. They really, really are. So we've got Tom Maudsley with his Skaven versus Tony Moore. So we saw Tony Moore take the win against Pete Humpage earlier. Tony's now facing off against Skaven. So that'll be a really interesting one. Further down the field, we've got Nigel, who beat Speckles, who just deleted his Flesh Eater Courts with Gutbusters. He's now going up against James Bedford with his Stormcast Eternals. So that'll be really quite fun to pick up on. Just over my shoulder here, we've got Steve Curtis versus Max Barton. Max Barton's got Stormcast Eternals. You got Steve with his Flesh Eater Courts, who's just been absolutely smashing face so far. And I'll also be picking up on how JJ's getting on. Right now, I'm going to cut back to Nathan and Adam, and they're going to bring you all the news from the tables.
Welcome back. So we're going straight to the table at this point.
Yeah, table one.
Got a microphone.
I've turned it back on now. After that, I gave you such a good breakdown, but it's lost, never to be seen again. So, yep, table one. They're still doing their deployment. I think we'll see Mark will have the lesser number of drops because he's got those big units. So he'll be deciding who goes first there.
Yeah, and also with the Legion of Blood having such large miniatures in Escalation, Mike's going to be pretty far back in that first turn, so that's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah.
You've got to be 24 inches away with Behemoths. That Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon with Vile Transference, he's going to be pretty far back.
He's going to be miles away, and the two Terror guys. So
that's right.
Yeah, they're going to be right at the back, and then Battle Line and stuff can deploy loads closer, can't they? In this one, so that plays into the Beastmen being able to deploy a lot closer and maybe get into good board control early on if they decide to take it.
Yeah, especially with the Disc and Zinch on the two big units of Enlightened and the Shaman as well. There's a lot more manoeuvrability in Mark's Beasts of Chaos list.
That's right. I think, that's super. It does play into Mark's hands really well with that.
Yeah.
The fact that the big scary monsters are so far away.
And what we've got actually, what it looks like to me at least, is we've got the grave sites actually along that central line there. That must be the final placement of them because it's before they start.
Wow.
I believe those are gravesite markers. So if Mark were to outdrop and take the turn here, he's going to quite easily be able to put units on them and block any resummoning and stuff that's going on there.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I do like how aggressive Mikey's deployed his grave sites.
Yeah.
Although you do normally see one at least being deployed further back.
Yeah, you need that contingency plan just in case the turn doesn't go your way. A D6 becomes a 1 and it's all a nightmare.
But he's put his balls on the table and he's
and it's moving around.
So it is, that's why it's so shaky. And he's going straight for the aggressive option. It looks like. So there we go. So we've got, so we can see this looks like a big unit of the Ungor Raiders. So he's got, like we said, he's got a big unit of Ungor Raiders, 40 of them, and these are the Zangor waiting to be deployed. So we've got some enlightened, look like they've been put in place, and the Zangor are being committed, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a pretty open space in the middle of the battlefield there, with that objective in it in the middle. But just for escalation, as we can see, they're lit up at the moment. We've got those objectives out to the sides as well. So I think we're going to see a bit of a fight in the middle here. The thing I always mess up when I'm playing this scenario, and my list wouldn't be a million miles away from Legion of Blood, except the elves aren't dead, is I tend to try and cover all 3 bases, but actually take 2 and hold them.
I think that's a key part of this battle plan, is to try and pick the 2 really that you can always have a unit that can possibly threaten the other one. So like we see Mikey has got, again, he's gone weighted here. I mean, these are just dogs at the moment, and then 1 small unit up here. So maybe he's going to concentrate on the bottom 2. But then there's always that chance, if the top one's left unattended, you can just go over there and nick it. Maybe we should also go and have a look over at the second table, although it's not really table 2 in the tournament. This is Nikos's table. So here we go. So this is Nikos playing against a Dreadwood.
Yeah, so we got Nige here, Nige Shorten, and he's brought his Dreadwood Sylvanet. It's a pretty typical build as we look at it. So you've got Dreicher in there and the Spite Revenants making up both the battle line and the tax in order to get that kind of Wargrove battalion. He's got Durthu in there, I think with Gear Strike, but I'd need to check that.
There is a Durthu, but there is so Durthu's right at the back, obviously. And that looks like a Lariel up here.
Yeah, I mean she's a must include these days for Sylvanas, surely.
And Dreicher must be, is she in between?
No, so Dreicher.
Oh, there she is. There she is.
So we must be looking at either a branch Wraith or a branch Witch. Of course, with Durthu's ability to bounce wounds onto that character, they tend to hug Durthu pretty closely. Because he might have Oaken Armour, in fact, or Gnarled Warrior. I need to see the list exactly, but we're going to assume that Durthu's the general there. He's going to tank the damage, allowing you to get the caster into range to get other stuff off. But Nikos is going to have to be really careful of Dreicher, and those mortal wounds are going to do things to the skink screens that normally we're not able to do. They can't retreat away from orbital mortal wounds.
Okay, so this being the Dreadwood, you roll a d3 and it gives you certain abilities of a certain number of abilities. Nigel's rolled that and he's got all 3 of them.
Wow, that's a big roll at the start of the game.
So he gets a teleport, the minus, and the 3 moves. So that's pretty sweet.
That's really big, particularly when you've got Lariel in the list there, because she's further up the board, particularly in Escalation where she's got to start 24 away. I would expect to see Lariel punching forwards with that free move, then summoning and making sure that they're able to get the majority over that objective.
All the stuff that she summons way up closer in the board. Yeah, that's really useful for the Dreadwood. I mean, so Nikos's army is all about movement.
And board control. As you can see along the back edge here, Nikos has got skinks lined up, and skinks lined up along here. One of the things you need to watch out for.
You've got 1 or 2 units, and not major threats. So your major threats are spread out. We see the handshake there, and then obviously the Sylvaneth are going to take the first turn.
I assume so. And that's the great thing about those Wargrove battalions, is you're pretty much guaranteeing that against most opponents.
And you really want to be taking it. You've got the chance of the Alpha Strike, especially with the Dreadwood, and then
cool. So
Dreadwood obviously very strong for an Alpha Strike, with all the extra moves and the teleport that they get.
Yeah, I mean, it was particularly strong at the start of AOS 2. We saw it at Six Nations. We saw it doing a lot of deployments against it. Although, that said, Nige has rolled what he needed to and got all 3 of the pre-game things. So
all the buffs.
this is what Dreadwood players are playing for, going first and coming at you with everything on the line. We should probably mention as well, we're in the realm of Giran, which at least narratively is fitting for the Sylvanath. It'd be interesting to see, because we've got the Realmscape feature Life Springs here, so one hero from their army has an additional wound characteristic, and maybe we can check in and see which ones have been selected for that.
Yeah, you would have thought Dirthu's probably got
the strong choice, I think. Alarielle can keep herself alive, even 12 Razordons isn't taking Alarielle down in one.
And she heals herself up pretty good.
Yeah, 2d3, and that's even if you don't have regrowth in the army, which you probably do. So potential 2d3 plus d6 every turn.
That's great. So now we've seen a lot of so other Realmscape features. Did you want to just run through those?
Yeah, so the Realm Command ability, command the land. You can have a Shield of Thorns spell, which is the Realmscape magic, which is actually a different spell to the Shield of Thorns spell from the Sisters of Thorn. Has the same name, but it's effectively different. Basically, if you charge a unit that has this buff up, it's cast on a 5. The charging unit takes d3 mortal wounds if they complete within 3 of the unit. So it's a good way of dissuading people from coming in something. But again, as we were saying in previous games, it's not really any more scary than deadly. And it's something that you can unbind. But the Realm Command there, Command the Land, allows a non-wizard character to cast that spell, which in these armies there's plenty of wizards to select from in the first place.
Yeah, and it's just for free, isn't it, really? It's a free spell. So, it's decent. Against, if you're getting charged by a monster, you can maybe take it down a notch into the next bracket. So it has its uses, but as you say, it's not that much of a game changer.
Yeah, it's probably not a game winner, but a couple of mortal wounds here or there, they actually do make the difference, particularly against Sylvanath. So it might be something Nikos is considering.
That's true.
Once things are actually dead, they're gone, and they have very little in the way of mortal wound redundancy. Which again is why I suspect that Dirthu's got that extra wound on his profile to begin with from Life Springs.
Yeah, and that'll be the wood that he summoned up over there. That'll be so he can teleport into the thick of the action in the middle of the board.
I should think so.
Right, so maybe we can go back to the table 1 and see once the deployment is finished there. So here we go. So you can see the Terrorgeist and the Zombie Dragons right up in the top corner.
And they've got all of this way to go right up into the middle of the board.
Right, and then with this deployment, so Mark has got the choice of who takes the turn, and he obviously not that bothered about all of the threats being so far away, so he's actually given him the turn.
I think that makes sense.
So just to bring him over into within range of his own stuff, so hoping that he'll move forward and just expose himself.
I think it's often a valid tactic against death, particularly in the current iteration with Grand Host of Nagash as well, because you've got that ability to be bringing units back and making life difficult for your opponent. If there's a turn where you haven't killed anything, it's not coming back in a more difficult place for you. You're wasting a turn of that ability to redeploy.
Okay. That's true. If there's another turn where they're not summoning units back on,
you know where they are and you can pin them in a bit better. He's also going to be forcing Mike to commit to gaining control of those grave sites in order to heal himself, in order to bring those units back.
And it just means that those units, so obviously they're going to also be wanting to look at contesting objectives. And it's just exposing yourself to the counter. So you're just bringing yourself a little bit closer, and it just means that those amazingly fast units of Enlightened will be able to just fly over, jump in there, and just start smashing stuff up and taking the objectives back. And once they're in control, and you can flood those objectives with the blocks of Ungor and Zangor, it's going to be super hard to get in there and start.
It's also why I think those little supporting characters, such as the Shaman, are really essential to Mark's list, because he can be sitting with getting lookout so close to them, he can fit on his own into a piece of terrain, so he's got that extra save. He's keeping those units there right down to the last man with command points, because he's always going to be a struggle to dig out of them.
Well, especially as Legion of Blood aren't exactly renowned for their shooting, are
Yeah,
they?
they didn't bring too many like skyhooks with them this time. As you were saying before as well, Nathan, the speed of the direwolves within Legion of Blood though means that, okay, you got to deploy quite far back in Escalation, but those units of 5 are surprisingly resilient, and if Mike really wanted to push it, he can get coverage onto all 3 of those objectives with his battle line. Turn 1.
It's cheap little units. And it just means that Mark then also has to spread himself out to go and deal with all 3 areas. Now, that shouldn't really be a problem for Mark, because it.
So that's our vampire dragon.
Because the Enlightened are so fast. Effectively, about 30 inches they've got an area that they can threaten. So I mean that's huge board coverage. That's not really an issue, but it does mean that you have to split your army up a bit. And once the army is split up, then the Terror guys stand a better chance of getting stuck in.
Absolutely.
And taking them to pieces.
They don't want to be fighting multiple units. They want to take out one and move on and hop around the board, taking things out in one. Particularly where the Tzeentch forces there, the Beast of Chaos forces there, they're unable to be bringing those units back, right?
Yeah.
So they're having a much harder time once the attrition goes the wrong way. Whereas for the Legion of Blood, those 3 units of dogs could die, and as long as Mike's still got access to his grave sites,
he's got a chance of bringing
them back and redeploying them.
So threat-wise, you've got the big unit of Zangor and the 2 units of 9 Enlightened. So you got this is the Beast of Chaos list. So you got these 3 really threatening units. Now on the other side, you've got a unit of 10 Blood Knights.
Now they're interesting because they're just off our screen at the back here, but that's a big threat, right?
Yeah, so they're quite chunky. I mean, I don't expect them to go through the unit of Zangor in a turn. The Zangor are just so resilient because there's so many wounds in that unit.
If they get the charge though, the Blood Knights with that D3 damage on the lances is pretty
scary. Well, they can.
And with 3 wounds each, they're hanging around too. They may give out less damage, but the ability to heal models back into the unit, I think they win that war of attrition over a couple of turns.
They do get a buff in this in the Legion of Blood, don't they? They become they become slightly better.
I don't exactly know what that improvement is within the Soul Light. We had to find out. So as we expected, we see the 3 monsters moving up at full pelt towards the middle of the board in a forwardly kind of direction.
Right, so that is the end of the death turn, and we can see Mark is starting to measure out. So he's moved his Vampire Lords onto this piece of terrain, I think.
Okay, so these are the 2 winged Vampire Lords. They're on 40 mil bases, and they're a bit hard to see down there, but they're hiding away.
So they'll be there. And then he's moved up his Terrorgeists into a block. And he's got his Blood Knights here. So he's just got a wall of attack moved up to within range.
The counterpunch here is frightening.
Then he's put the unit of dogs up here, this objective.
Unlike taking Blood Knights that he's just pointing to there on the screen, and Terrorgeists and the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, that is a very frightening counterpunch. Mark's going to be really worried about not getting the double turn going into the second round, because he's got a real question here. Does he commit to taking the middle one and either one of the flanks, or does he play a bit more of a cagey game and wait to see where those threats are going to go?
Well, this is where having a few small units would be a good thing, because a small unit that, say he had 10 Ungor, he could run them up and then just contest the objectives, and then that would then force Mikey to be able to commit. But at the moment, Mikey's played nice and defensively, but by taking the 2 end objectives, means committing units forwards. Now, those units will then be exposed to the counter punch, especially if Mikey wins the priority roll. So
Yeah.
this turn 2 priority roll is going to be super
And he's
important.
more likely than not to do that, having been gifted it in the first instance, because if they roll the same, of course, these days, that goes to him.
Yeah, so the odds are slightly in Mikey's favour
Yeah.
at the moment.
Interesting stuff there in the Twitch chat regarding the scenario itself. As you've seen, the score's been taken off there because you do not score in the first round of Escalation, so that's now been taken back. I wonder whether Mike knew that and whether he would have played differently, because those dogs, if they haven't been scoring, are now in a little bit of a vulnerable position.
Yeah, but the mere fact that they're there just does mean that they
have to go there to deal with them.
They need to be dealt with. Because even though, yes, you're right, I think they don't score this first turn, but just the mere fact that they're there, they need to be dealt with.
Yeah, and they will score turn 2 if you don't go and kill them.
Exactly.
So he's still achieving what we were talking about, which is splitting that force down the middle, or forcing him to commit to a central objective. There's 3 monsters, the general, 2 vampire lords, and 10 blood knights ready to come in and sweep them away in an avalanche of biting and horror.
But this is where you'll see the strength of Mark's list, which is the Masters list, really, is how resilient this
Somebody
stuff
found a
is.
light switch.
No, suddenly everything brightened up. It's a lot more resilient than you think it is, and it's not. It's all 5-up saves, and admittedly the Zangor got shields and stuff, but but it's the amount of wounds in those units.
Yeah, is it 3 wounds on the Enlightened and 2 on the Zangor?
I think the Enlightened have actually got 4 wounds on
I
the
think you're right.
Yeah. So, but the Zangor are 2 wounds each, so it's a 60 wound blob there.
Yeah.
Just really.
And I was looking at this the other day. I think 60 wounds is actually the maximum wounds for a unit in Age of Sigmar. Because if you have 1 wound, the maximum would say your Grots and Gloom Spite, that's 60 models.
60 models.
And I cannot think of a 2 wound unit where the maximum is more than 30.
No. So last year at the Sheffield Slaughter, I brought an Iron Jaws list with a unit of 30 yard boys.
Yeah.
And that has won me so many games. It's quite similar, I suppose, to this to the Beast of Chaos list with that big unit. Just so good. But where the Beast of Chaos have the flexibility is that they have those big units of Ungor, which are just cheapest ships. And you've got those cheap
scoring bodies. It's also a wall that you need to get over.
Yeah, and really fast. The whole Beast of Chaos army is just lightning. It's like shit off a shovel. It moves so fast.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, really does fly around the board. So now the lights on, maybe we can cross over to table number 2, or Nikos's table. Although it's not really table 2. And go and see
in the story of Nikos.
Yeah, how Nikos has fared, how the Dreadwood have got on. So I don't know, Scrivo's around. If you can cross us over. There we go.
Here we go. So here we are. No score here as yet, but that's to be expected with the non-scoring in the first round of Escalation. So we're now on to...
So we can see... So we can see we've got Dryka and Dirthu are in the centre here now.
Yeah, but on the right-hand side, we've also got a base of a similar size. Has Nige summoned the Tree Lord? Because if so, the whole Sylvaneth chat will be out of their minds.
So here we see, he did summon a Tree Lord.
Yeah, okay.
So where is that Tree Lord? Is it the one in the centre?
It must be the one closest to Alariel.
There we go.
So I
that
think
one
it must
there,
be this one here, right?
Yep.
Which means that I imagine this is Drycha, and we've got Dirthu trying to take in his side, but I could be wrong.
Dirthu would have, that's
there
Dirthu.
We go. Dirthu's in the middle here. You can see
because he would have gone through the woods.
That's right.
Oh, he's just made a big charge, so he's charged into a unit escape. That might hurt.
So he's about to whiff.
Might hurt Dirthu, you think?
He just misses consistently. He won't kill skinks. They're too powerful for him.
Sure. So Drych is facing off against the Razordons in the top right there.
Now I'm surprised that Nige has gone for the Tree Lord there. The kind of working theory is that you would always summon 20 Dryads because they actually can hold objectives and debuff the enemy and what have you. And you can fit them inside the wood and improve their armour.
I do think most of the time you're going to see the Dryad being summoned.
Yeah, the Tree Lord. The Tree Lord has some nice shooting output, which actually, thinking about Nikos's list, if you've got those chaff screens of skinks that you want to clear, the additional shots from the strangle routes from the Tree Lord could be a really useful consideration.
Well, yeah, it's just getting hold of the skinks, really.
Yeah, so that extra shooting threat, which Sylvaneth struggled to get, now that they're blocking their own line of sight, and Kurnoth Hunters with bows aren't often the choice, maybe the Tree Lord isn't the wrong thing here. But I'd still want I would certainly want 20 Dryads in a nice sexy little clump around about there, maybe a bit wider actually, to stop the skinks being able to have numerical superiority in this scenario. One Tree Lord's not going to help against 70 skinks.
Yeah, and those skinks, I mean, skinks are so mobile.
Especially with the 20 camo skinks in the sky.
Oh yeah,
they're just going to come in where they want. So for my money, the 20 Dryads need to come into the middle.
Yeah, I mean that would be the competitive choice, but they both have lost the game, so I don't think we're looking at like the most competitive lists here. But definitely very interesting and pretty fun actually.
Yeah,
I
love it. So Lariel's hitting something that is presumably skinks.
All of the smaller bases that we can see there are just tree remnants. So he's brought no sticks at all, really, other than the big logs. So he's just got the little spike remnants. So there we go.
And it looks as well on the right flank as we're looking at it, and as you can see it at home, Drycha is not fighting very many skinks over there, so presumably her scream dealt with a fair few of them.
She shouted at, well, her little insect bugs have managed to...
They've crawled up inside them and...
whittle away a few of those.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
And they're gone.
She's eaten the rest of them. But she is now left standing in front of 4 Razordons. Potentially another 4 could fly over there.
I think she's going to struggle against 4 Razordons, I think.
Yeah, probably just the 4 will be enough to hurt her anyway.
Is she 10 wounds, 11 wounds? It's not very high. And as we saw in the previous games, you can just roll 6s for a couple of shots.
So that's the Dreadwood Sylvaneth Dreadwood versus Nikos's Seraphon. So if we go back to table 1, I think, and we'll see how we're doing there. So you're seeing Mark moving up to contest the objective. So again, he's not committing. Really, he's moving up enough bodies to contest those objectives if he loses the priority. And so now basically, if you do lose the priority, he's not really exposing the meat of his army
smart play
to the Terrorgeist.
This is the moment that I would have overcommitted. We would have had Terrorgeist coming in through the flanks. But here we're looking at the next couple of turns. Of course, when the scoring actually comes in, and Mark's going to be able to capitalise on it either way, and he's threatening, just as Mike did in the first battle round, he's threatening all 3 objectives.
Although I don't know if those Zangor are close enough, maybe, but I think that's a bait because they are resilient. But I think it's now time to cross over to the man who wanders around the place, whispering sweet nothings.
Prince himself.
The Nomad Prince, whispering sweet nothings into so many people's ears. We're going to see what Adam has to say about what's happening elsewhere. Over to you.
Thanks, boys. So, I'm just going to pick straight up with some of the higher end tables at the moment. So, just to the right of me, we've got Ben versus Alex. Ben's got his Flesh Eater Courts versus Alex's Mixed Order. It's still fairly early game at the moment. They're kind of both 2 very very competent players, just squaring up really, just eyeing each other up, circling. The hackles are getting up. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a good one to be coming back to you. So Ben got turn 1. He handed over to Alex. Alex moved about 3 inches and then just handed it back over, and then it's back to Ben. So moving down to table 4. So Tony Moore with his Flesh Eater Courts we saw on stream earlier on. It's Tom Maudsley with his Skaven. Tom's list actually has 4 Vermin Lords in it. So it's no wonder he's kind of been chomping his way up towards the top, Tony has taken turn 1. But again, that's still really early days. There's mostly a bit lower down. We've got Nigel Bartlett. So Nigel's the guy who took down Speckles with his Gutbusters, and he's now facing James Bedford with his Stormcast Eternals. James took turn 1, and then kind of didn't really do a huge amount, and then he kind of moved up a little bit, but not enough to actually kind of secure a huge amount and make it particularly solid. Handed over to Nigel. Nigel then, two of his Ale Guzzler Gargants just fell over drunk. So that's great news for him. So it might not quite go as well for him as it did last game. JJ, picking up with JJ, as we've seen him earlier on with his Skaven. He's now facing Iron Jaws, but it's a really lovely looking Iron Jaws army by James Williams. James took turn 1, has surged forward, holds the entire line of objectives. He's got his list is 12 Gore Grunters, Maw Crusher. He's got 10 Brutes, which are really in JJ's Skaven line. He's already taken out two units of Clan Rats, so they're just gone already. And yeah, we know they can kind of do a bit of summoning, kind of magic and mess and pull all that back. But so hopefully JJ can kind of flip that back round on him. 777 just over my shoulder here. We've got Max with his Stormcast Eternal versus Steve with Fleshy at Courts. Max has got 60 Sequitors, and that's kind of the basis of his army. He's got 3 really solid points of kind of control, and he has all 3 points now. So Steve did take turn 1, moved up, took all 3 points. He just got within range and just left it. Max has then moved up. He now is looking to secure those 3 again. He's pretty much on top of him, so he's going to score 3 himself, and then just that'll escalate next turn, funnily enough. Just looking at kind of picking up on the meta as we've kind of been looking at stats wise. Daughter of Cain, they've currently got a 70% win rate, whereas today they've only got a 33% win rate. They've got 2 from 6 at the moment. We've got one of the guys up on the higher table. He's had 2 wins so far. The other guys haven't won a single game yet. And they have had really bad matchups, really unfair matchups, to be fair. Just a little nip in the back room. The back room is kind of the bottom 10 tables. There is a lot of Stormcast in there. There's a huge amount of Stormcast in there. So I think that's maybe indicative of just kind of there's a lot of armies that are looking very, very strong above them at the moment. And Mixed Order is definitely having a much better showing than just pure Stormcast. Legions of Nagash seem to be pretty much on the nose of where their 60% win rate is running at the moment. And just before I hand back to the boys on the table, what I'm going to be doing is running through and picking out some of the real stars of the weekend, and I'll be bringing you those today for the rest of the game today, and picking them up on tomorrow. I'm going to hand back to Adam and Nathan now.
Thanks very much, Adam. So Nathan and I have been having a look at the 2 games that we've got on screen here. Nathan, you went to have a look at what's going on with our Table 1 Legion of Blood versus Beasts of Chaos.
Still turn 1. Mark's actually made a couple of charges here. So
yeah.
He's charged in. You can see the Ungor Raiders charged in. They're still strung out, but there were about 14, 15 of them.
Yeah, so enough to take that off him.
And they've killed a couple of dogs. So they start chipping away at that unit. And then at the top, the Zangor have jumped in, and they've killed 3 or 4 of those dogs. Up at the top.
There's certainly 3 gone.
Yeah. And so definitely swamp those 2 objectives.
Yeah.
So, basically, he now has presented himself in the place.
Yeah.
To he's put himself in a good position. He's got a nice little presence there.
Yeah.
Although
it's going to pull those things in.
I do think the unit on the right, the Zangor, might be slightly exposed, but then they are they are the furthest away from the Terrorgeists.
They are quick though, as we've been seeing, although the Legion of Blood ones don't quite have the same level of buffs as we've been seeing with Flesh Eater Courts in the previous rounds. Cool.
So that's basically the situation of table 1. So nip it over to table
Nikos. Yeah. And we'll have a look at
how
what's
the
going on.
Dreadwood and the Seraphon are faring off. Right,
So it sounds
that was
like
the priority roll we've just seen.
And where's it
Mark
gone?
has taken it.
Oh wow, okay,
Mark's
so
won the priority roll and he's taken the turn.
at this point we're going to see him pushing up, making sure he's on those objectives because we're scoring now. So that screen
start measuring. You see the long measure from the Enlightened showing just what threat range they have.
might we see a retreat here from the Ungor screen and a bringing up of the rest to recreate that screen. Those 3 dogs are pretty useless when there's a weight of bodies within it, and those grave sites will be behind the line. It'll be difficult to bring them back.
Yeah, there is that, but you can see the long tape measure he's got out there. That's what the Enlightened can do.
Yeah.
So he might just be like,
he might just go for it.
Sod it. I'm gonna fly over there and just start knocking.
Pull the cord and let it rip.
Just knocking those Terrorgeists around a bit.
Yeah.
Although I don't think he'll be able to deal with the Terrorgeists and the Blood Knights. So he will get countercharged by some Blood Knights probably, but whether that will be enough to deal with 2 units of Enlightened, I doubt it.
And
it does pin back the majority of the Legion of Blood army.
Yeah. Not forgetting, of course, that we've got the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon in the middle of those 3.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to put the Enlightened into taking out the Terrorgeists that we've got that are unridden. You think that's relatively likely, but that placement with the pretty frightening character, he's obviously got that Chalice of Blood as well, so if he does take some damage, he's not out of the game. Him being in the middle of that 3, that triumvirate of dragons, does make it a little bit more of an ask, I think, for the Enlightened. I think they'll still do it. I think you're right, he's going to go there.
Well, he's going to want to go in on an end, really. And try and stop too many dragons getting back into it.
Yeah, and on the right flank at the top, Mark's still pretty far away, actually, from the other unit of 5 dogs that's been held back and the 10 Blood Knights. They've got some ground to cover if they want to come and contest that objective.
Well, and there's so many bodies up there now, that you're going to want to be able to do. You're going to want to do the majority of that 60 wounds before you can actually start contesting against it.
That's right.
So
Mike's only realistically going to be able to bring 15 models to bear on that objective. You've got to expect some of those to be dying off, particularly the dogs. So there's the numbers are not in Mike's favour at this point.
Yeah. Although the fact that the unit is strung out, if you do charge it, it is sort of trapped to only a 3-inch move. But I think there's enough of it close enough that a 3-inch move doesn't count. So we see just how fast the Enlightened are.
Yeah.
They are just so fast. So,
it's phenomenal, really. And that's not even a long charge now. Like you'd think, okay, they can fly over, they'll have a charge, you've got command points. And as we said before, the Shaman's going to be keeping up with them. Maybe you're looking for a reroll, but that just looks, what's that, 5 inches, something like that?
So, so here you've seen the strength of the Beast of Chaos army. How fast they are, how resilient they are. I mean, we've seen a few people, even Mark Wildman himself, having a good whinge about how crap the Beast of Chaos book was.
But they seem to be doing well, don't they?
He's proven himself wrong yet again. He's always doing that kid.
I wonder maybe if that's quite likely with books that when they first come out, people aren't blown away by them. You're not only going to force yourself into the 2 lists that are talked about on podcasts and on the internet, you're actually going to read the book for yourself and come up with something that suits your style of play and that other people aren't expecting to play against as well.
Here we go. So he's committing. Oh, He's in two minds here. So the Enlightened have got the rules where they get better if something is attacking first.
Yeah.
So if a unit within 3 is activated before they are in the combat phase,
Yeah.
then they get to reroll to hit and to wound,
Wow.
which makes them just really consistent and really toppy. So normally they're quite good hunting in packs, but he's splitting them up. So he's going up to the top as well. Deal with those Blood Knights.
He's really going in there. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be going in over the middle there. Blood Knights, I suppose
they're better on
the charge, aren't they? So if you're going to have to deal with them, better to deal with them in their deployment area when their lances aren't getting all charged up and spiky.
That's it. Yeah. So you probably can charge them with the Enlightened. Let them hit you first because they're not as killy.
Yeah.
And then once they've done their thing, they've actually buffed you up, and they probably haven't done enough damage to be able to, that the buff outweighs the damage that they've done to you.
Yeah.
So you will actually do better if you've taken a bit of damage from standing still Blood Knights. And it does pin Mikey's army back. So it does. So they wouldn't have scored in the first turn.
Yeah.
But it does mean that Mikey's now got to fight himself out of the corner before he can start scoring.
And it really goes to show how painful it is for somebody with a Bemoth heavy list to be looking at escalation.
Yeah.
That's the best part of 1,000 points, maybe 1,200 points, where it's pushed way back.
Sorry?
That's the best part of 1,000, 1,200 points pushed way back in deployment, allowing armies with more bodies, which are scoring the objectives anyway, to really swamp the board, and it just makes target selection really difficult. And as you can see here with the Enlightened there on the left flank, they've made that charge. They're into the first Terror guys. You see, Mark has intentionally left them out of the Vampire Lord. On Zombie Dragon, you don't want to have to fight 2 of these monsters, and you can just see the rangefinder there, the combat gauge, making sure that the Enlightened are killing the Terror guys and not dying in response.
Yeah. That's it. So he's just making sure he doesn't have to fight. So looks like he's rolled a big charge. That's 8 inches he's rolled there, and they're going in.
Yeah, and they'll be able to slide around to this side of the Terrorgeist as well, staying out of 3 about here. So he should be able to get a large proportion of the unit, bringing their weapons to bear.
Yeah.
And that's a huge move, because they started, way back here? So they've covered that board as quickly as you were predicting.
Exactly.
That's a terrifying threat.
That's the beauty of the Enlightened. It might not do as much damage as you would hope. But the fact is, they're actually quite tough as well. So by the time Mikey has finished fighting his way out of that corner, Mark could have put a substantial score on the board.
Those 3 dogs aren't going to be stopping 40 Ungor from keeping hold of that left hand objective anytime soon.
I think all those dogs' days are numbered. And the objectives are all going to be marked for at least the rest of this turn.
Yeah, and that's a strong start, scoring in Battle Round 2, having all 3, pinning stuff back. We've seen stuff being killed. I imagine that on the top right, those Zangor there are going to deal effectively with those remaining 2 dogs, so we can write them off. There's no characters within range of the grave sites to be resupplying the lines. I do wonder again about your point earlier about potentially leaving a grave site back in your deployment area.
Yeah, I do like the aggressive way he's done it.
Yeah.
But one back, at least one.
For sure.
So the Enlightened have got, so they're backed up by the Shaman who stood over here. So he gives them +1 to hit, I believe. Obviously they don't have the re-rolls because they've decided to go first. But I would have thought
it should be enough.
They've got enough to either bring it down or put enough hurt on it that it's not really a major threat.
Right. When your movement's going down, it's starting so far back, it's pinned in place. And Mark's just got the board coverage here, certainly along the left. It looks like that charge has gone off as well in the middle of the board, right on Mike's back line. The Enlightened have also gone into the Blood Knights, and as you said, that's the combat you can go second in really when they're not charging.
Yeah, because a lot of the damage.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's got 18 after damage saves to make on that Terrorgeist. So he's made his normal armor saves, and then failed 18 of damage. So these are his death saves.
And the wins on the Terrorgeist is what, 14?
Yeah, so there's a good chance it's gone. Probably seeing if bat swarms. So that Terrorgeist will disappear in a flock of bats.
He's just going to evaporate, isn't he? He's gone into the night sky. Here he goes, there he is, out he goes. So that's one down, 2 to go.
Yeah, it's a great start, but immediately Mikey is now going to be thinking, I've got to deal with those lads. And just means that he's not going to be scoring. That is the crux of the Age of Sigmar at the moment, is the objective play, and a lot of the objectives will require a number of bodies, and that is the strength of this Beast of Chaos army, is that there are a number of bodies, not only are there a number of bodies, but they're super fast and they're quite resilient. And
as we were saying about different options in that book, there are multiple ways of getting hold of redeploys, of ambushing, or of just taking the discs in the first place. I think I'd be really interested in seeing lists with Centaur in there. They're relatively cheap, they're still quite fast. You're going to be able to ping them onto objectives in a similar way to actually how Mike was running his dogs. And what's quite interesting as well is like the Great Bray Shaman, who can give you run and charge on Beast's units, which is quite strong.
It's just the mobility and the resilience of the army. The ability to get a large number of bodies onto objectives and to hold them. The weakness, you might say, is that the fact that there's for the missions where you require heroes or wizards, you've only got the 3. But those 3 will be then screened behind these big blobs. So unless you've got a ranged threat that can deal with them, so I would, something like a Warp Lightning Cannon would be pretty scary.
Drycher, as we're seeing on the other table.
Something like that would be something that would give the Beast of Chaos army a headache, but
certainly the one time I've played them was with a Living City army with 30 Blade Guard popping up in the at the back of the table and going, right, that character's dead. I don't care if I'm -1 to hit. But we're still only, I think, tentatively looking at a return to mass shooting. Of course, when Rob was down with us in London the other week, there was a lot of shooting going on there with 2 Cunning Rucks and Jack Armstrong's list. But you're not able to reach out and take those threats.
I definitely think we're going to see more shooting.
It's coming back.
But I don't think we're going to see majority of armies just being shooting.
No.
Just because there's so much fast combat out there. The Flesh Eater Courts are just so fast. Obviously they've got no real badge. They've got some shooting, but it's not anything serious. Their main threat is combat, but they're so fast that they can get into a shooting army before it has a chance to do all of its shooting, really.
And it's really just zipping along, and without the need for stuff like cogs, and often your opponent's going to be putting that down anyway. You're going to want to psych them into doing that. So making sure you're where you want to be.
So Mark has just got himself into a really strong position. You can see he's on purpose. They're both not activating that big fight at the top.
They're both a little bit scared of it.
They're both not wanting to start this fight, which is unusual So,
so
basically, the main reason being that whoever if the Blood Knights fight first, they will then activate the Enlightened's ability, whereby they can get the re-rolls.
Of course, yeah. When they're going second, they get a buff there.
So they've both been like trying to leave that fight alone, but there's enough.
Somebody's going to have to play.
Yeah, and it looks like it's probably going to have to be Mikey.
Yeah,
because
we're seeing that activation down on the right side already. We've had the pile in over here towards our right-hand objective.
They should wipe out that last dog.
You would think so.
So then it does mean that something up at the top there, either the Blood Knights or the Vampire Lord or somebody up there is going to have to do a fight.
Yeah, so we already have down here, certainly the Ungor have attacked because we're one dog short.
Another one's got a wound. I think those dogs at the bottom have fought as well back.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
So that does mean that the Enlightened are going to get buffed up. So,
and what's interesting as well about the unit of 10, the way that he's come in with the Enlightened and the fact that he's slightly blocked in by the dogs on this side, the range on those lances is only 1 inch. So the Blood Knights are not only pinned back against the board here, but I think only the front rank and maybe this guy on the end who can pile in and round. So I think that Mike's only going to be getting 5, possibly 6 of the Blood Knights actually in combat here. Wow. So not only they're not charging, but by going in when he has, forcing him to attack and giving that buff to the Zangor,
he's just reduced the amount of damage.
Reduced the amount of damage by about 50%.
Wow.
More than 50%. There's half as many models and they've not charged.
Yeah, so this is turn 2. Turn 1 they don't score. Turn 2 we both saw them push up cautiously and try not to expose themselves. But the speed of the Beast of Chaos army is such that even if you push up just a little bit, you're exposed because they are just so goddamn fast. They flew across the board and straight into his face. It's just crazy how fast the Enlightened are.
And the big change for me, because you used to see Blood Knights rocking around a lot in the days pre-General's Handbooks, is they are no longer summonable. So if that unit's gone, if the Enlightened hit them hard, they're not coming back, and that's a huge point sink. They're an expensive unit. I believe they're 260 points for 5, something around there. So that unit is a big swing this early in the game.
Yeah, I mean, and you've lost a big monster already as well. So. So, just shows that Mikey's hem back. So now we'll maybe cross back to the Sylvaneth and Seraphon battle.
There we go. And just as I was over there when we last went to Chucklebuty and had a look, what we managed to get was the Slan generating another 6 points for summoning, leaving at the start of the first Seraphon turn. They had 10 summoning points. So I'm assuming those haven't been used because I can't see anything. I can't see.
So Dirthu's dead.
Dirthu is being shot off from here, presumably by these 4 Razordons here.
I believe the Engine of the Gods also contributed.
So she's taken some damage from the Razordons, but not to the same degree as Dirthu.
Dirthu's gone forever, but she's lost half of her wounds, I believe.
Half of her wounds. So looking at going forwards, we've got Camo Skinks as predicted earlier, coming down from the sky into the central objective.
Dropping
Nige brought in his Tree Lord here, as we both thought. You need 20 Dryads there.
20 Dryads would be a lot harder for the Camo Skinks to deal with.
You've also got the bodies that are making sure the objective belongs to and is secured by the Sylvaneth. At this point, they simply are not.
One Tree Lord is going to struggle against those. And
what's particularly strong as well about Camo Skinks in a scenario where you're playing against Sylvaneth, where you've got your free wood down in the middle of the board, is the teleporting units swapping from this wood into this wood. And as we can see here, under the line I've just drawn, the branch Wraithers, I believe, summoned in some more Dryads. But they can't go anywhere.
So they're
in order
stuck
to
in
teleport,
that wood.
This wood has to be free. And those 2 lines here are meaning that you can't come within 3 and outside of 9. So I think unless this Tree Lord here can come in and deal with 2 units of 5 Chameleon Skinks, which I think is a hard ask, particularly as he's not going to be able to shoot them because of the Wildwood itself.
Yeah, the Wildwood blocks line of sight.
These 3 Konoth Hunters with bows, they're not going to be able to deal with the Chameleon Skinks either because the Wildwood is in the way. So at the moment, the Camo Skinks are in a really strong position, majority bodies on that. They haven't moved there, so they're not losing models to moving through the Wildwood.
That's it.
And that Tree Lord is likely to make the charge and take out 1 unit, but then he's just 1 guy, and he's not going to be able to take it away from Nikos.
And I think the Camo Skinks get buff as well for being in terrain against shooting.
Yes.
So
they can't be shot because they're in the terrain, and the Wildwoods block that. I suppose a Lariel would be able to shoot them as she flies, but it's going to be a hard task. Looking at that, we've got a Razordon being removed potentially from Dreich's shooting there in the Sylvaneth. Second turn it must be.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the Sylvaneth have taken the priority going into battle round 2? I think it. Yeah, so I think we're just getting confirmation of that now from table side.
Sylvaneth 1 priority, and I've taken the turn.
Okay, so that was always likely to happen after going first.
Yeah.
We've seen a Razordon go and some wounds splashing on the right-hand side from Dreicher there. And we're having often players are blocking their own Konoth Hunters with the trees, but Nige has managed to avoid that common trap and is shooting through there onto something that's pretty dark down here. I think we have a Seraphon character along the back line, possibly...
I think it's the Astroloth Banner Bearer.
Yeah.
Getting picked away with some shooting.
Picked away and seems to be gone. There's no longer... No one knows.
So back to table 1, and all of the Blood Knights have gone.
We have 1 Blood Knight remaining here, and we do have, of course, the Vampires here. So we've got a choice now for Mike as to whether that 1 Blood Knight is worth a command point. The dogs are coming in as well. At this point, it's just trying to put as many wounds into that unit of Enlightened as possible. Yeah. But they've already done their job.
They have. So they've just removed that huge, the big block of Blood Knights, which is a big choppy threat. Does mean that the right-hand side, that block of 30's angle is just not ever going to be threatened.
Yeah, I think 1's just gone though, so he has managed to flank 1 away.
1's been dragged down by doggies.
And speaking of doggies, the unit, as we predicted, up on the right flank here seems to have completely evaporated to our Zangor on the right flank.
So, as we said, so turn 1, they both moved up cautiously, but you can never be too cautious when there's Enlightened around, because Enlightened are so fast. So Mark winning that very important priority role, just sailed across the board. 2 units of Enlightened, so fast, so choppy.
That's so key. A lot of people talk about the double turn should be something you can play to avoid, but in a scenario like Escalation, it's just so huge.
Well, yeah, and also with the speed of the Enlightened, it's very hard to play against that, because they can, even if you deploy yourself far enough back for a normal unit not to be able to get to you, they can still get to you, because you don't want to deploy yourself too far back,
because then you'll never
be able to contend with the game. So Enlightened, their speed, it's just they're just so good because they're so fast.
Perhaps for Mike, there may have not been a realisation of turn 1 not scoring for Escalation, because a better thing for him to do is to use those 15 dogs to screen the army where it's first deployed and move forwards in a way that's denying that.
Just build a castle, really, of dogs.
That's got to be good advice. Build a castle of dogs.
Build a castle of dogs and go and live in it until the Enlightened have spent themselves on the dogs. Then you'd have to countercharge. But there's not a lot you can do because they are so fast.
So we're looking there at the end of Mark's second turn. He took the priority in that battle round, of course. We've got a score of 3, so he's happily and comfortably controlling all 3 of those. Now Mike's got some difficulties here. He could send a Terrorgeist after 1 unit of Enlightened and a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon after the other and really make a mess. But at that point, as we said previously, the weight of bodies that Mark's got already on the objectives is forcing Mike to make a decision now between kill points for the rest of the event and trying to chase them objectives.
Any way that he can get back into the game. It does look, I mean, does your head go down now? You still got 2 choppy monsters. They can go in and bully a unit of
and they're as
enlightened.
choppy as they come as well. We've got Vile Transference on the Zombie Dragon Lord as well, so Mike can commit him pretty heavily. I'm forgetting the artifact. Was he with Ethereal Amulet?
I think it
was. I think he was. So he's super survivable, super hard hitting, and the ability to bring back from the Chalice of Blood D6 wounds, as well as Vile Transference later in the game. So that Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, plus the healing for actually killing stuff. He's going to go through something and be able to tank that damage and potentially be redeployed after that. So the choice, I think, for Mike is, can he get it as close to scoring an objective as possible and do that damage without the numbers of Mark's Beast of Chaos just overwhelming him?
So what do you do here with if you're Mikey? Do you send your Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon into that unit of Enlightened and try and whittle them away, and send the other Terror guys forward into maybe the Ungor?
Yeah, I think what I'd be trying to do here, because he's still got all his wounds, is bring that movement over into this terrain piece kind of area, then look at the charges that you might have here and here. You do not want to have the fight here, because that's another battle round that you're too far away from affecting
the rest of the game.
With the breath from both of these, the Terrorgeist and the Zombie Dragon, as we said, it's not the most powerful thing ever, the shooting from Legion of Blood, but if you can be perhaps dealing
or get rid of like that buff piece,
then we're going to start to see 8. See them go down.
To who?
What's this? So we're just getting some stuff from on the table.
So we've got Quicksilver Swords has been cast. It's gone into the Zangor and 8 mortal wounds.
Is that,
that's because they're chaos, aren't they? So Quicksilver Swords hates chaos. So wow, he's rolled.
Where is that on the table? I can't quite see it myself.
So it's attacking the Zangor. It must be just out of sight on the top there.
We can't quite see it on our screen that we have here. But it's hotting up. This is it's been a really strong start, I think, for Mark. But Mike's got the tools to contend here.
So crossing back to Mr. Adam Chucklebucky, he's got some more news from the floors, from the scores on the floors. Let's see what beautiful things he has to tell us. Over to you.
Thank you, boys. Thank you very much. So just going to quickly whip through the tables we've been bringing you all weekend. So table just next to me, Ben Johnson versus Alex Bruce. Ben's got his flesh eater courts. He chucked a Terrorgeist in the backside of right up the backside of Alex Bruce, and Alex just spat it back out again. He just chewed him up with his Dragon Lord. And so we're gonna have to be quiet for a sec. Someone just left their lights on in the car, so we just had to. So they might be walking home. Oh well. So yeah, moving on. Then we've got Tom versus Tony. You've got Tom with his Skaven versus Tony with his Flesh Eater Courts. Tony is sat there munching on some chips. He's got the ball control he needs. He's holding the position, and he's just sat there waiting. He's cool and calm and collected. He's just he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how the upper hand that he's got at the moment. There's still 4 Vermin Lords on the table though, so there's a lot of crap that can come his way. It's just absolutely, it's on its way. It's just not there yet. Moving on to our hero Nigel with his Gutbusters versus James with his Stormcast. Looks like it's a priority roll that's just gone off. Just before they rolled it, they both agreed that the priority roll, if it went to Nigel, it's very much Nigel's then to lose. He'll get more points than pretty much than can be clawed back unless he goes to a tabling. But Nigel is just munching through those Stormcasts and just sending them all straight back up to his ear and just deleting the lot off. Looking at JJ then, picking up with JJ from earlier. with his Skaven versus James with his Iron Jaws. Iron Jaws were looking great initially, but JJ's just managed to blast a whole load of them off. There's gore grunters and bacon flying everywhere. It's just absolute carnage. Annoyingly, I guess, for JJ, his hell pit is 4 inches away from a bunch of gore grunters, and he's failed a 4-inch charge twice. So with a reroll, he failed it twice, which is a bit of a shame. Just behind me, we've got Max versus Steve. Now, Max, he went home ill at Crimbobo, and that was his first Age of Sigmar tournament. He is a 40k player and a very successful 40k player, and this is now his first competitive tournament. If he survives tonight and gets through to tomorrow, because a lot of people that don't, it's always a bit of a question mark as to whether everybody turns up on the day after. It's very much looking Max's way, and he's just one priority as well. So he's going to go 6 up, and it's not. While Steve has just destroyed an entire unit of 20 Secretors, killed a Castellan, and has just put an Arcanum down on single wound. That's on foot Arcanum down on single wound. Even with all that, Steve's feeling like, okay, he's probably not going to be able to claw that back. He has to score all 3 points with some regularity, and he doesn't see how he can do that. Definitely still technically possible. One really big bit of news though is Speckles has actually won a game. Yay! Speckles wins a game. I mean, he's definitely proving that he's got a bent as bananas army. Because he went up against Gaz Hughes with his Khorne. He's got the Khorne Dragon, and the Khorne Dragon has just been deleted in 1 round of combat before the Khorne Dragon could even play. So that was a single Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, £30 unit, right? So it's a 30 mount model versus a 350 pound model, and he's just 400 points versus 1200 points. 1 round of combat before the dragon could even fight. Deleted him off the board. I'm going to hand back now to the boys, and they're going to give you the rundown. There's been some shouting and jumping around and some excitement going on these on the tables for everybody. So I'll hand back to the boys.
Hello. Welcome back. Welcome back to table 1. Game 3, Sheffield Slaughter. We've been doing. We've got to turn this thing on. There we go.
Yeah,
I've turned my mic on.
Ooh,
welcome back.
Hi. Thanks for that, Chocolate Buddy. That was really nice to hear about some other games from around the room.
Cool. Yeah. So welcome back. This is turn 2 still. Turn 3.
Looks like it must be. It's either turn 2 for Mike, or we might have just missed a priority roll into turn 3.
So turn 1, they both edged up cautiously, but not cautiously enough for the speed of the Enlightened.
Yeah.
So they are base move 14, and then because they are Gore, they get that buff from the Grey Shaman.
Yeah, it's +3.
+3, so basically a 17-inch move.
Yeah.
Meant they could run over, pick off a zombie dragon, pick out the unit of Blood Knights.
And the hard thing for Mike from the beginning of the game in Escalation is those 3 big keystone pieces to his list, the Terrorgeist and the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. They're 24 inches away from the line. They've got to come forward as soon as they possibly can to actually enter into the game at all, and those Enlightened are able to just go, cool, you're now close enough, I'm going to come and have you.
Yeah. So, and his screening units of dogs, obviously they were too far forward, got dealt with nicely.
Yeah.
I mean, he did commit them so that Mark would have to split his force to deal with them, but then Mark has got those 2 units of Enlightened. They're just fast enough and choppy enough to go and deal damage, which is what they've done.
And the big hit for me in Mark's second turn, as he sees the priority going into battle round 2, is just in the middle of the board, where we can actually see here on the screen. There's quite a nice void. We can see the green map. There used to be 10 Blood Knights there, and they are no more.
They've gone.
Something that's happened though during that second turn for Mike and his Legion of Blood is that unit of Enlightened that came in and took out the Blood Knights with such effectiveness and such fierceness. They're gone.
Yeah.
The Terrorgeist and potentially the Zombie Dragon Lord as well have just come into that unit. They'd already taken a little bit in terms of casualties from dogs and from the remaining Blood Knights themselves, but that unit that went forward and did that punch in the middle of the board has been chomped down in retaliation and retribution.
That's it. So this makes the priority role for the next turn very important.
It really does. It really does. So far we're 3-0 up, but that's only one turn of scoring in Escalation, so it's definitely all to play for Mike, particularly with those 2 hard-hitting units left and one of the units of Zangor Enlightened completely removed from the face of the earth.
So this is still Mikey's turn. Second half of turn 2, Mikey's turn. And Mark is just hitting back with the Angor Raiders, hoping to finish off that unit of dogs.
So we've got 2 dogs here who've been pretty plucky, I'd say. I always like it when battle line units, particularly dogs
versus goats.
It's all the fun of the farm down here on the left flank.
Yeah.
I think if we see a priority going in Mike's way, you might see the Zombie Dragon pinging back this way to deal with the Enlightened.
Yeah.
Because conversely, if Mark gets it, those Enlightened don't need to be tagging the 3 objectives. They need to be dealing with those later game combat threats.
Well, yeah, the 3 objectives are nicely sewn up by a big unit of Zangor, big unit of Angor. So it's now down to Mikey. How is he going to open up holes for him to start scoring? And it's just doesn't look possible at the moment. But if he wins the turn, he can go in and start clearing units. But what does he do? Does he clear the main threat to him, which is the Enlightened, which means that Mark gets yet another turn of scoring before he can start scoring.
Yeah, and he needs to get on that scoreboard
but
as soon as
they've
possible.
just rolled priority, and Mark has won the roll. Is that right at the table? Mark. Oh, okay. So Mikey wins the turn.
So Legion of Blood are taking the turn, which is what I think we need to see for this game to last the full 5 battle rounds.
That's right. So he loses control of the Quicksilver Swords, but that's not a problem because they weren't going to affect him in return.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So now he gets to decide the tough choice. Does he deal with? Does he go and deal with that big scary blob of Enlightened, which can effectively chop up a dragon pretty easily, as we've seen? Or does he go and
have a harder time, of course, against the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon with the Ethereal Amulet and all the heals? But they pretty much overkilled the first one, right?
Yeah, I reckon they did. So, or does he try and start dealing with the scoring unit?
I think you need to take those Ungor out. They're pretty strung out. That's going to make it difficult for Mark to decide which end of the line he's going to be taking models from. He needs to have the majority here, and I think 6 inches is only really going to keep 1, 2, 3, 4, less than 10 Ungor in on this side. And when Mark moves his head, we'll be able to look at the
probably
ones on the
4 or
side.
5 there.
But they have left around a
dozen.
bit. It's slightly higher here. What he's not able to do, of course, is take anything out in the middle. So if the Zombie Dragon is punching into the middle here, Mark has a choice to make. I don't think the Zombie Lord is going to take out all 40 Ungor, but he's going to kill enough. That means that either the furthest left or the central objective are going to be given over to the dogs or the Vampire Lord.
Yeah. So that was Quicksilver Swords just doing the 1 mortal wound this time instead of the 8 that it did the previous turn.
That's slightly better, isn't it?
A little bit more on odds.
So what do you want to see here? I think I want to see the Terror guys coming and having a go at the Enlightened, and the Zombie Dragon Lord going into the middle and making sure that those Ungor are taking it hard. But as we said previously, if the Enlightened go second, they're really buffed up in terms of hitting that Terror guys if that's the way he chooses to go. So it's not a great choice either way for Mikey here.
I do agree. I think I would probably concentrate on the Ungor and the Enlightened. So possibly bring these unit of dogs down to try and tag into the end, just so you get more bodies into there, and then bring everything. So you've got 2 vampires, I think they're still
they're
over
around
here.
there, aren't they?
So get them into.
Popped out up here.
That might be them there actually.
Yeah.
So get as much as you can into this area here. Send your possibly the ethereal
Yeah, he's going
into.
to have a much better time fighting them. First of all, he's doing more damage, and second of all, he's taking a lot less.
Yeah.
And that ability to heal makes him the perfect tool for the job.
Yeah, so I think he's your tanky but also damage dealer. Send him to go and deal with these guys and hold them in place.
Yeah.
Send all of your damage dealing into the center here.
Yeah.
But
It looks like we've just had shackles come in, or an endless spell.
Oh
of
no!
some
So
kind
that
as
was
well.
so he's unbound, dispelled Quicksilver Sword and
Okay.
recast it.
So it's now going to be affecting the unit of Ungor, and as we said, if any damage being taken by Mark here, and that's on a 5+ against Chaos.
Against Chaos, yeah,
you
yeah.
want to be, was it 12 dice for Quicksilver Swords? So you're looking at a few mortal wounds coming in there, around about a third. So hopefully
So it's
4
starting
Ungor
to-
coming out.
Yeah, it's starting to work on those
And
Ungor.
as we can see, there are a dead pile of Ungor here, meaning that lap round and the people in control of the objective, the goats in control of the objective on the left-hand side are beginning to be whittled down by that. And I think that's also telling Mike something about what Mark's planning on doing. He started removing models from the left-hand flank of those Ungor, which means he's possibly thinking about abandoning the left-hand one in favour of the central one and the one on the right.
Right. So the Quicksilver Swords did kill 5 of the Ungor.
Wow,
And
so that's over average.
yeah,
Yeah, there's
definitely.
an extra Ungor on what you're
Yeah.
expecting
Yeah,
against
he's
Chaos.
rolling great. So he looks like he's going to go and deal with those enlightened.
Yeah.
I really would be tempted to only try and deal with them with one of your big monsters. Send the other one
Yeah.
to start chipping away at the Ungor, as you
I
said.
think, as you just said there, that Terrorgeist, he's got to come straight down the middle here. You want to bring your vampires in as well. So you got 3 models there.
Yeah.
Just 3 scary models to deal
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
right?
The vampires are decent.
Yeah, and the additional bonus of those 2 vampires, if you got your Terrorgeist on this side and the Vampire Lords there, they're acting almost as a screening thing as well. If Mikey were to make the decision of bringing these across and stopping the dogs, and bringing these across again here, holding onto this objective, those 2 Vampire Lords for me would be blocking and letting the Terrorgeist really go to town.
Yeah.
But that's not what's happening.
No, he's committing to the Enlightened.
He's got to
so
take them
he
out.
wants.
So that earlier punch
Yeah.
has scared him.
Yeah. So he's, and it does mean that he loses another turn of scoring. So he's even committing the Vampire Lords into that fight. So everybody's. I do think that's an overcommitment over
I
there.
think that's not only an overcommitment but a misdeployment.
Yeah.
I think that Zombie Dragon Lord is either going to kill the Enlightened or do enough damage to them to effectively take them out of the game.
Yeah.
Everything else in there needs to be piling into the middle.
So you score the points that you score for this game are just.
We're now seeing the dogs retreating away at the top from their previous position here, really motoring away from the
Again,
unit
they
of Zangor.
really should be looking at that central objective in my mind. I could be wrong.
It's
but
currently held by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 Ungor only, and there's stuff in this Legion of Blood army that just sweeps that away, surely.
Yeah. So possibly we can now cross to the other table, go and see what Nikos and Nigel have got up to. So wow, it does look a lot less.
This has been extremely violent since we were last looking at it. Alariel's still alive down at the bottom there. Dreicher, it seems, has been finally pinged off. She'd taken half her wounds, both from shooting and then to stand and shoot when she went into the Razordons. They whiff. Durthu, of course, had disappeared and evaporated in the middle. Turns out he'd actually taken some mortal wounds from Deadly before he even got shot by the engine.
He tripped up on his way in, did he?
The Razordons. The Tree Lord has come in here, and I cannot see 5 little chameleon skinks there anymore, so he's presumably eaten them for breakfast. You can still see that 5 capping the central objective for Nikos. And wow, how clean is this table looking?
Yes, so much emptier. But we can see the 3 objectives are all green.
Yeah.
So Seraphon are scoring.
They are scoring, and I just love the way that Dreadwood plays. Just to recap a little bit from where we were, Dreadwood rolled the 3 on the D3 at the beginning of the game, allowing them to really maneuver, really motor across the board. But that brilliant wide deployment on Escalation from the Seraphon, meaning that Drych's shooting, Alarielle and Durthu was strung out and they're hitting a chaff screen.
That's it. They've just overextended themselves, I'd say, sort of spread themselves too thin. If they concentrated their force, maybe.
Yeah, and Nige killed 40 skinks in that opening salvo, but that's what they're for. And shooting's the way to deal with them rather than combat, so it's more than maybe you're expecting to lose, but it's frightening. So as we can see, currently on the...
Going to start claiming objectives back, to be honest.
So as long as these 5 camo skinks are alive
Although
here,
Nigel,
and the edge of this forest is threatened, these drop and be getting a... The Seraphon, of course, with their innate ability to teleport around the table to their heart's content, resummon stuff from the engine of the gods, who's still ticking away there, means that, from my perspective...
Yeah, I do agree. I think, so looking at the board, Nigel's won the priorities, taking the turn.
So that's going into 3 now.
Yeah. So he more than likely will be able to gain control of the central objective back. Getting that tree lord in there, kill the other 5 chameleon skinks.
It seems likely as well to me that Alarielle on the bottom left of our screen here will be able to take the left hand one too. And it's possible that he's still in control of this one here. I can't quite make out how many skinks we have here, but with certainly a unit of Spite Revenants, all 5 of them within the objective there. So had Nikos gained the turn, you'd be expecting movement up here and the Razordon shooting that weak unit off. But that's not the way it goes.
No.
When you get the priority, you're back in the game.
Yeah, so the Sylvaneth, they should be able to score at least 2, possibly 3 here if those Spite Revenants can go in and clear some skinks. Which you would have thought they could do. So
that said, the Tree Lord in his movement seems to be coming in this kind of the direction.
Oh, he's not going for the gold then.
He's got to deal with the gold. Also, as they are touching the edge of that forest, I need to check it on the table, but I think he would also be able to shoot those chameleon skinks now that he's on this side of the forest and his base is outside. It was only when he was on this side that he couldn't see through the forest to get to them.
Because they're within an inch of the edge of the forest, you can still see them.
In fact, I think a couple of bits are overhanging. That may be with the table moving, because Nikos is a tight enough player to make sure they're far enough back, you would think. And there we go. He's actually managed.
He's found a hole.
Managed to find a hole and bring those dryads forward. So that might give us a slightly better explanation as to why the Tree Lord is potentially slingshotting away from those camo skinks in a moment that we thought he was going to go and clear them up. Those dryads are going to be able to come in and do that kind of work there.
Right, so we have got some interesting news from the floor. Somebody has turned their luck around. They've found out how to roll those bastard little cubes. So let's go find out from Adam, you beautiful fella, and your beautiful friend. So over to you, mate.
Thanks, boys. So I'm here with
Speckles.
The worst player, worst Age of Sigmar player.
Right now.
You can't know. I mean, right. So Speckles has just gone up against a Khorne army that is not expected to do very well at all. It's just a showpiece. It's a big Khorne dragon.
Yeah, the £400 model. That's about 6 times the size of one of my dragons. It's humongous.
But it doesn't move very far, though, does it?
It's a midget. Like, it moves less than my little Terror guys. So we measured the wingspan on it, and the actual model has 18-inch wingspan, but only moves 14. So I don't quite know how that works.
It can't move as far as itself, which is just
very full belly.
It's trying to eat dragons, but he just can't.
Yeah, I know.
So how did your game go?
Very quick game. I won priority after going first, so there's no double turning. I thought I'll try and do a couple of wounds to the Khorne dragon, knock it down to about 10 off its 30 wounds that it has. Chuck the Terrorgeist in. I think I did about 6 on the... No, I did 8 damage on the first attack. Used the CP, and then with the Maw alone, did 27 mortal wounds with the Maw before it even did its attacks, and obliterated it.
And you tightened it up, and it went up to... It would have actually gone up to...
It would have been 50 damage from one Terrorgeist. One.
And how many have you got on your list?
2.
So you got 2 of them. How the hell have you not won your game so far then?
My dice could not roll above a 2. I played against an ogre list. All those the same attacks, not one dice above a 2. Even with the reroll, nothing. It can see. I think it's got cataracts, so it can't see. Like it can't see the giant. It's not big enough. But the corn dragon's plenty big enough to see. I'm like, right, it's that I need to kill, and it did. It whomped him, and then that was it. He gave up.
Yeah, Gaz just was like, nah, that's it. That's 1,200 points gone. I haven't really got anything else that can hold any objectives. So he was just like, forget it.
He killed a ghoul. One ghoul.
But, so he conceded quite early. Does that mean you get maximum kill points?
Yeah. He fully conceded, so I get max, and he's 2,000. So doing okay kill points wise. We got 2, 3, 4, 5,500 kill points.
That's not bad, given the max would be 6,000 right now. So you've got a lot of kill points, but I mean,
yeah, the first 2 losses. How a flesh eater core with a new book can lose to a giant list. Not
just give it to you.
It was just ridiculous. I was just being nice, I think, just overly nice. I'm just a nice person, not a shit person, just nice. Not shit, nice.
Just a shit player.
Yes, shit player. I was just about to swap my dice out as well, so I'm quite fucking glad I didn't do that.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to hand back to the boys on the table. They're just remiking. They've just gone. Oh,
I do want to throw out there. If this weekend, if I get to play Nikos on the stream, I'm going to kick his head in for being.
Oh, challenge issued.
Again, I will batter him.
Oh, well, we may. I mean, we can't necessarily arrange that.
No.
But Nikos is potential. I don't know how the game's going. The viewers will know.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The chances of me getting it is very, very slim, to be fair.
Well, okay. With that, we are going to hand back to the boys on the desk and give you the latest on the top cut of the tables.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Welcome back to the table 1. So, table 1, if we just do a quick recap back from turn 1.
Yeah, so we've got the Beast of Chaos, captained by Mark Wildman, on the bottom half of your screen as you're looking at it there, with Mikey's Legion of Blood, what's left of it, at least, starting at the top. And in Escalation, the big thing that was always going to be tricky for Mikey to face, with his list in particular, is if you've got a Behemoth, they've got to start 24 inches away from the line, which means that your 2 Terrorgeists, your Zombie Dragon Lord with the Ethereal Amulet are so far away, and so he's got to come forwards, right?
Yeah.
What we've got over on Mark's side is 2 big, strong units of 9 goats on flying saucers.
Yeah.
The Zangor Enlightened. Movement, 16 plus 3?
So base 14 plus
base
3.
16.
So base 14, I think.
I think they're base 16.
Are they?
Yeah.
Plus the 3. So they're just so fast.
Super quick.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of kind of brinkmanship going on, neither wanting to commit wholly, 2 lines moving towards each other, and as we say, those Zangor Enlightened were just able to go across, 1 punch, 1 Terrorgeist. You've got all 3 objectives controlled in that second battle round by Mark, leading to a 0 score from Mike.
Yeah.
And it's not quite reflected on screen, I don't think, but we rejoined the game after the horrible murderous death of a Terrorgeist and of 10 Blood Knights to Enlightened.
That's right. So what's happened? So that first charge of Mark's at the beginning of turn 2 saw him go into a Terrorgeist and take that off, go into the 10 Blood Knights and take them off. For very little loss to himself. In Mikey's turn, he managed to get both the Terrorgeist, his Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon and the other Terrorgeist into the Enlightened at the top of the screen, finished them off. He then flew back across to try and get them both into that unit of Enlightened.
And it doesn't seem to have gone as well.
No, so the Terrorgeist made its charge, but the Vampire Lord on a re-rollable 6-inch charge failed its charge. So
and Mikey really needed things to be swinging his way as well.
So that Terrorgeist, which we thought should have gone in for Ungor, was left fighting the Enlightened on its own. They dispatched it.
I think it killed a few first, right?
Yeah, I think it's killed 3 or 4 of them. But but it was not enough. The remains of them dispatched it.
Yeah.
And we now see this is now Mark's turn. No, Mark's half of this round, so it's his
so
turn.
Mike won priority going into turn 3, meaning that he was able to redeploy, do the damage he needed to do. But as you say, that failed 6-inch rerollable charge.
It's cost
That's
him
huge.
Yeah, that is.
And it couldn't come at a worse moment.
No, I mean, I do think he was possibly in the wrong region of the board anyway, but
I would agree.
that has not helped. That has compounded his misery. Now we see the Zangor moving across with a Bray Shaman behind them just to guide them on their way.
Okay, and they're more than happy to leave that objective alone.
There's nothing threatening that now. Basically he's just going to go and look and try and finish off the kill. It looks like he's put Geminids through the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon.
So Geminids up here, which is making him much less of a threat in terms of his output.
So he's obviously going to probably be -1 to hit, I would have thought.
Yeah.
He would have taken D3 mortal wounds, which won't have helped the situation at all. There are 2 Vampire Lords just on with wings.
We've got one here, and I'm guessing the other one is somewhere within this map, somewhere around there. We've also got a unit of dogs. I thought it was an interesting move to pull them back and away. I know that the Zangor would have killed them, but they're now proceeding unimpeded.
Yeah, they're just chasing them down.
And as we said right at the beginning, the placement of the grave sites in a situation where you're winning those turn priorities, it's a good thing to be aggro, but they've not come into play here.
No, he could have done with at least one further back. But knowing the speed, I mean, hindsight is 2020. Knowing the speed of the Beastmen army, you're gonna have to realise that you're probably going to be fighting most of the battle in your side of the table because they're just going to flood across and pin you back. So in this case, I do like aggressive deployment of them, but you probably want them a little bit further back.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree there. So do you think the goats can finally finish off the dogs on the bottom flank? We've got our barnyard.
The little barnyard scrap is still
going on
going on. We've got some summoning occurring. So obviously we've got the old shrine over here.
Yes, the herdstone.
The herdstone, which has got a unit of 10 Ungor. Well, there used to be 10, but they've been slowly sacrificed away.
To the fire, so having curry goat for dinner.
Yeah, curry goat, and that's resulted in 3 more enlightened joining the battle.
Wow.
Which Mark has, I think he's put them at the top of the board. We can't really see the top edge of the board, but I think they're this sort of region up here.
Okay. And that's scary. I mean, at this point, when he's pinning him in, Mark's got total domination of those 3 objectives, and that horde of goats is really charging across. Those cloven hooves definitely helping out to further pin in and channel the remaining miniatures, especially with Geminids there too. Mark's not going to care for a moment if he ends up being forced to have the Geminids hit that unit he's summoned. He just wants to get them in and do some damage for free.
Well, effectively they are for free. They've been summoned,
bring him in, chop him up,
called by the wild calls of the Braymen. Bray Shamans.
The Braymen, I like that. That's a really good elision there.
And then obviously Mark's decided that in this barnyard scrap down here that his little Ungor goats are not enough.
They weren't quite pulling their weight, were they?
So he sent in the real big uns on their discs, and they're
and they've one-punched the Terrorgeist, so
I think a couple of dogs.
2 dogs. I don't know, they're pretty plucky. I think they're still going to be in there.
There they go, as he drags them off the board. Obviously plucky, but just not really good enough armor saves.
Not good enough armor saves, not enough wounds, not enough models left in the unit, and completely unsupported by any characters. So their number was up.
We've just had a lovely little comment from the table where Mark is very pleased that his army has managed to. I mean, this battle is pretty much nearly done now.
I think
it's
so.
going to be an early victory. he can head back to his hotel room, get his pot of paints out, and maybe paint these models for a change instead of looking at these little black circles.
It's making our jobs difficult in the darkness of Sheffield.
We don't know what he's pushing around.
The only thing I can tell for sure is Geminids, because at least they're painted in different colours.
So we're having a bit of a dig at Mark. He normally brings very beautiful looking armies.
This is why we need to get like a much closer in camera so we can pick out the whites of their eyes.
See what's what there. But so we've just seen priority roll, and Mark has won that priority.
Wow.
So
is this going into battle round
this
3 now then?
Battle round.
I think we're slightly behind on our scoring.
3, Yes,
there we go.
It's going to be 4.
Thanks very much, John. So at the moment, 6-0 to Mark, and Mark's taken it going into the 4th.
Yeah, I can't see any way. I don't think Mikey's going to be able to get a single point on the board at this rate.
No. He's going to, unless that zombie dragon
survives
and punches his way into the Ungor unimpeded, but it's not looking likely. No.
So, the Zangor at the top are going to carry on their marauding escapades. Probably go and finish off those dogs. The Enlightened at the bottom, they'll be fast enough to fly back up.
They can go wherever they want to
they
all
can.
The time.
The other ones that he summoned, which we can't see, they should be able to get a bit closer, make sure they get a definite charge. So Mikey, obviously, because Mark's taking the turn, Mikey gets to move
Those
the Geminids.
are going as far away from that.
He's like, get away from me, stay as far away from me.
I'm surprised personally they're not being pushed in that direction if we have got 3 Enlightened
there.
I
don't know if they are there.
For me, with the zombie dragon, I'd be bringing it into the middle and say, look, come and get me. But perhaps his idea is to actually reverse that and bring the zombie dragon up towards that unit of 3 that's just come in there. But we just don't know. But those 3 objectives in the escalation mission here, death
Costa's table.
There you go. Despite that big kind of initial attack from the Dreadwood, the killing of merciless slaying of 40 skinks at the beginning of the game, the spreading out has meant that the objectives are pretty well covered. Even though big frightening pieces such as the Lariel are still contending, that unit that we'd previously said of camo skinks that must have been killed by something, they'd actually just bugged out for a minute and have redeployed themselves somewhere useful.
They just disappeared into the wherever the chameleon
so as we can see,
go.
that unit of Spite Revenants that we were talking about before that were holding that objective for Nigel, they've gone. And that unit here of the 10 skinks has made it really, really difficult for Nigel to bring anything to bear there. We notice as well here, previous round, we thought the Tree Lord might come in here where there were some camo skinks. He managed to kill one with shooting, and instead he's shunted in here and had a go at the engine of the gods and the skinks. But it looks like
they just backed off.
And backed away.
They just backed off. Typical Seraphon tactics, really.
Like, we're actually much too busy to fight with an anthropomorphic tree. We're going to be over here.
We'll wander back and shoot you.
And the Razordons here, is this one unit? Has he forgotten about coherency being a thing?
They could be a summoned, one summoned and one remaining.
So something that Nigel was pushing to do in the previous battle round, having summoned into this wildwood back here, we have a branch wraith sitting there, summoned the 10 Dryads. They eventually managed to come here when the camo skinks bugged out. They didn't get that 9-inch charge off in order to contest the objective. No. They were unlikely to, of course, but that would have been a good moment to score. Alariel had secured this. It would have been a good moment to score that one and bring Nige back into the game. But with the number of models left on the board, the reduced summoning abilities, and the lack of wildwoods on the table, this shooting from the Seraphon is not being blocked, and I think that's going to be really, really, really hard for Nige to deal with. The Tree Lord here is going to evaporate, surely, to these units. Not to mention the small arm fires of the javelins here. Because you will fail those 3-ups if 20 shots go into it. You're going to take a couple of wins.
Weight of dice was going to be very telling.
That's one of the real strengths in Nikos's list. The ability to melt away while still chipping away, whilst the Seraphon Allegiance abilities are allowing you to bring in particular pieces that are going to help you with your particular situation. I think it's a really nicely synergised list. So now just having a look at those Dryads there, they seem to have been taking some damage. I'm not quite sure what's been shooting them there.
Probably the chameleon skinks.
Ah, yes, because they're actually within the forest. I'm not sure that's quite the right ruling though. You can't see through the forest if you're in it, it just blocks line of sight.
Oh, okay.
So I would argue that those Dryads could not have been seen by those chameleon skinks, but if that's what they've agreed on the table, that's what we're looking at.
So looking at Mr. Adam Chucklebutty.
It's a nice thing to look at.
Yeah, such a fine looking fella. And he's grasping his microphone in a very manly fashion and about to give us some updates from the floor. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, boys. I can't, even though we're about 5 feet away, I can't actually hear a word you guys are saying. So we've got a bit of a wrap up now. We've got a lot of games that are pretty much finished now. So just to my right here, where you've had Ben versus Alex. Ben has managed to basically completely, and I think Alex would agree on this, completely wipe the floor with Alex. Just absolutely made a joke out of him. No, it's not fair actually. It was it did run away with Alex, but it was a pretty solid game. Moving further afield, then we've got Tom versus Tony. Tom is Tom with his Skaven, Tony with his Flesh-Eater Courts. It's still really early doors. It's still only turn 2. It's 3-0 to Tom, and Tony is yet to score. It's a really weird one. Very slow. We've got quite a lot of that. We've got some that are like really quickly done. That's it. And then we've got a few. The ones that aren't yet done are really early in the game. But I guess it's just the kind of luck of the draw. JJ unfortunately is basically looking like looking like he's actually gonna smash it with against James with Iron Jaws. There was one brute in James's in one of James's brutes in JJ's deployment zone. Other than that, it's pretty much a mop-up job by JJ. The only thing is he might be too far behind on points. So they're just totting that up just as I left them earlier on. So it might well be that JJ can't quite catch up with that. Just behind me, we did see Max win. So Max did manage to just pull away, and it just snowballed, and he just held all 3 points for a bit too long. So Max has won. So for his first competitive tournament, this is 3 for 3, and he's looking pretty good. He is a very successful 40k player. So to make the jump is pretty impressive. That is all I have, with the exception of the final table I'll bring you, is Nigel with his Gutbusters against James Stormcast Eternals. James, whilst he's looking like he's very nearly tabled, he's got quite a lot more points than Nigel, and he might not be able to kind of pull that back anymore, unfortunately. But I will just hand back to the boys now, and they'll give you the update on the tables.
So, welcome back. Thanks for that, Adam. Good to hear about some games now. I've been particularly watching the one with Ben and Alex, the mixed order, dealing with the new filth of Flesh-Eater Courts. We come back here to our table one. It's shaking. The camera's wobbling all over the place. Somebody's just kicked that tripod.
So we are in the end game here. The game progressed. So turn 1, Mikey was given the turn. He edged up a bit, but basically then Mark edged up a bit. Mark winning the priority for the next turn, flew across the board straight into a Terrorgeist with 9 Enlightened, took that off.
Yeah.
Straight into the 10 Blood Knights with the other 9 Enlightened, took them off.
Yeah.
Mikey then, controlled all the centre objectives.
So Mark, as you can see there on our stick-up, scoring 3 versus 0 in that second battle round.
And then maintaining control of the centre of the board with a big unit of Angor, big unit of Zangor. Mikey had a chance to try and counter-attack, which he got both units of, or both the Vampire Lord on the Terrorgeist, on the Zombie Dragon, and the Terrorgeist mate, and all the little vampire
Vampire lords
dudes,
themselves.
the vampire lords themselves, all into the other unit. One of the unit of light that had killed the Blood Knights, killed them, and then went over to try and kill the other unit of Enlighten. Failed a charge with his vampire lord on Zombie
6
Dragon.
inches, re-rolling, nothing.
Yeah, so the Terrorgeist went in on its own, was not enough for the job. Got absolutely, got punched to death by the Enlightened on discs. Did manage to kill 4 of them, 5, something like that. Not enough.
And as we said, nowhere near any objectives. Not something that's influencing the game in a meaningful enough fashion.
Just fighting in the wrong place. Not really fighting the Ungor, which I think the Terrorgeist's job was to go and fight those Ungor.
Yeah.
And the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. Sure, it failed its charge, but it should have been fighting the Enlightened or keeping them busy.
Yeah.
And so now Mark has just moved across. He's able to abandon objectives in the center now because Mikey hasn't got an army left really to be able to do much about it.
So what we can see on the board, just as we come into the closing phases, we've got 2 dogs here. Something that's been taken out there.
That would be one of the Vampire Lords, probably
and
the
Ethereal
General.
Amulet Zombie Dragon, huge point sink at 440 with the Ethereal Amulet. He's nowhere near the objectives. Why would you even bother with him?
Yeah, so he's ignoring him.
Yeah.
There will probably be another turn, and then he can just swamp him with the whole army. Even with an Ethereal Amulet, he'll probably be gone. So.
And even if he isn't, by that point, we think Mark's taken the turn here into 4, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So we're scoring another 3 for 9. Mike can't win.
Yeah. So both players have agreed that the game has been won by Mark, and they're just playing to see for kill points at the moment.
Cool.
So we're going to cross over to Nikos's table and see what. There we saw the handshake just as we crossed over. So now we are onto Nikos's table. So this is Seraphon versus Dreadwood. The Dreadwood rolling that mighty 3 for the amount of buffs they could get. Flew across the board, but spread themselves out.
Well, they had to because Nikos had spread himself out. So in order to get that damage in where it needed to be, they just weren't capable of. So you've seen a lot of damage output from the Sylvaneth, but doing 30 mortal wounds to 10 skinks isn't going to help you.
So overkilling what they did kill. Then the Rosedon shooting in reply, and the Chameleon Skinks popping out the ground.
Into the centre of the board here on that objective.
Just taking all the objectives from underneath the Sylvaneth's feet. At the same time, just picking them off with Razordons. The Razordons putting the hurt onto Durthu, onto Drycha, and onto another tree lord that
was summoned by Alariel in that first turn, that opening salvo. Alariel herself still on the board. She's one hard lady to take down, but she's a single model, and 10 Chameleon Skinks portaling in all over the place makes for a really hard life.
Yeah, poor lady. I mean, she's a good-looking woman, but she is still a single model. So for all you gentlemen out there, maybe you've got a chance, but who knows? But yeah, the Seraphon have. So they scored. They were up 6-3 at the end of turn 3. Nikos winning the priority means he will definitely score extra points here, and there's no feasible way that Nigel has got enough bodies.
Nigel needs to score all 3 in battle rounds 4 and 5, with Nikos not scoring 3 total over 2 battle rounds to even draw the game.
Yeah, so
it's pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point. And we're seeing Nikos using his really good movement stuff to screen off objectives here. There's nothing in the Sylvaneth army that's remotely close to taking this. And with those camo skinks in the middle, the Sylvaneth can't even bring their shooting to bear because of their own wildwood.
And so one of the units of Chameleon Skinks has disappeared in that turn. They're bound to pop up down here.
In fact, they may have done already. We're not quite sure on the 25mm bases. I think that 4 there is
Oh
the
yeah,
camo
that is
skinks.
them. Yeah.
And we've got the remaining ones here. Alariel's too far away. The bow hunters can't see because of the woods. They can't hit the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
And we've actually got another unit of Dryads been summoned in by the branch raid, so Nigel's still pushing, but they're going to be able to come in. They've still got to make a 9-inch charge and then kill out the camo skinks, and then it's still not actually going to be. And we see that just now as predicted. The Dryads teleporting down. This is last-ditch stuff.
And it's still not going to be enough, even if they
if
make
he's able
that
to
charge.
score 2 this turn, I think he can score 1 in the middle perhaps, putting him on 4. Nikos is still going to be scoring 2 for 8.
Well, Nikos is on 9. We haven't got the score updated.
So that turn 4 has happened.
Yeah.
So this is just kill points at this point then.
Yeah, so this game is over. Win to Nikos there.
Yeah.
And well done, Nikos, and well done, Mark the Beastman on Twitter, and he's living up to his name, even though he wasn't a fan of the book from the beginning. So, but he's using it to good effect. So thank you everybody for joining us today.
So
we're on the telly
again.
Hi Mom. Back on the old.
A really interesting scenario escalation to be looking at towards the end of today. It really asks questions of those powerful monster lists, and does favour things that you might not see as much. It's really helpful for horde units, redeployment, and shooting when you can bring it to bear is really making people scratch their heads about trying to cover 2 or 3 objectives in order to keep that scoring ticking up.
That's it.
And I think we've seen 2 very different games on the same scenario as well. The way in which they've been won have been satisfyingly different and showing different ways you can play not only the armies but the scenarios and the realms as well.
Well, definitely Table 1 illustrating your point there about the monsters so succinctly, because the Terrorgeist, the 3 monsters that the Legion of Blood had, pretty scary really. But so far away. But the strength of that Beast of Chaos army, with its number of bodies and the speed that they have, and the resilience and the damage output, there's nothing they've got everything. They're complete. And in this scenario, it's number of bodies. They've got all the bodies that they need. So they were in the driving seat, and they just push the pedal home, and
I think that's really exciting. You've got lists here that are really well balanced. We were talking before, Adam was mentioning about people like Alex Bruce with mixed order, and we've heard for years that mixed allegiances are super powerful, but the ability to do something in every phase, the ability to, as you said, be resilient, be quick, get to the places you need to do something with shooting, really do some heavy lifting there, while still having a number of bodies on the table. It's a good game, a good place for the game to be in, I think. Balance is good. It means we're making tactical decisions on the table.
I think we can see the strengths of those sort of armies. That Beast of Chaos list, super good. You can see why it won the Masters. In the hands of his protege, Dan, Mark's little fella that he trained up to be a fellow beast man.
Would you say he's more of an Ungor at this point, Dan?
Dan the
he's
Ungor.
Aspiring to be his Angor, enlightened.
They cuddle up around the herdstone and train each other up. So it's great. And I think you're going to see similar sort of things out of the new books that we see. Skaven are looking like they've got all the tools to deal with that sort of stuff.
And deal with themselves.
They're probably one of the only armies that can deal with themselves.
That's true.
Flesh Eater Courts, amazing damage, great speed. They can deal with the Beastmen probably. They're fast enough to get over there, put the hurt on. But
and
then
that double pile-in, dealing with that 40 Ungor screen in short order.
So it's all about, then it becomes down to the player skill, who's going to get what units into what places to do what they need to do. So
looking ahead and making sure that if that double turn doesn't go your way, you're able to then move on subsequently whilst reducing the amount of damage you're taking, and that's what we're seeing. And Feck are going to be good at that.
Feck are going to be great. Skaven looking good at it. Certain builds and other things, I think it's still got Ideneth lists that are pretty choppy, really
Yeah.
fast.
As we've seen with Nikos today, Seraphon, arguably needing an updated battle tome, massively MSU army, still able to do those things.
Yeah, Nikos plays a great game
He
with
really
that
does.
list, so yeah, it's good to see.
I'm excited to follow 2 more of his games tomorrow. I think 2 wins in this environment for an older battle tome and stuff that's got basically no save is
That's
super
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, so tomorrow we're going to see some good games. We're going to see some more Skaven and Fleshy to Court, no doubt,
Undoubtedly.
on the top tables. We're going to see the 2 Beastmen lists running around doing, well, they're exact copies of each other,
Yeah.
forged in the same fire.
We may even
which
see a mirror
was-
match.
We might,
It's
yeah.
possible.
Forged in the same fire, underneath the same herdstone.
Yeah.
So yeah, we look forward to tomorrow. So good night, everybody.
Yeah, and thanks for today.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all your insights, sir. Right, John, push the button.